Boys, Jim, why don't you come up, and it's all yours now.
Well, I think we kind of covered
One thing I was thinking, maybe Wayne could come and talk a little bit. We talked about that sale today at Jerald. They asked me some questions on some of that stuff. I didn't know a lot about it. So maybe you could. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that stuff, because you helped with a lot of stuff. What some of the stuff did go for and all. Or how much it all, you know, the whole sale and all. You did a lot of work there.
Well, yeah, come on up.
I don't remember the dollar anymore. Do you remember Jason? No.
Tell us about it, Wade.
Right, I was at the beginning of the year, when I heard a little over a year ago that they were going to have sale of Jerald's stuff. One time, I think a Sunday evening service, which the two churches in Harrison have Sunday evening services together. I mentioned to Alan Van Hook, that'd be Jerald's nephew, who was administrator. If he needed any help with the sale, to give a call, be willing to come and help. On the Monday before the sale, Monday evening, Alan called and said, I'm going to take you up on that offer if you've got time to help. So the sale was going to be on Saturday. I don't know, did you go on me on Tuesday? Jason and I went down there on Tuesday, and you would not believe the stuff on that place. And it was Alan, who was, I believe he had his 67th birthday when we were getting ready for the sale. But he had, I don't know, a calf shelter. It's just a little round roof building. And we opened the front up and it was level to the front, the ceiling. It was packed. There on the sale, there were 4 or 5 of these old F-20 tractors, old farmall tractors, with just the frames on them. Well, you can't see it very good. It'll be in one of the houses there. Would be an attic or upstairs. We found, minus the block, the rest of those 3 tractors upstairs in that attic. He had to do it by himself, I would guess, but I don't know. But there was stuff up there we had to be careful we walked because the ceiling was ready to fall down. But it was just, we worked every day. We got down there about 8, a little before in the morning, and it was smoking hot last year about this time. And we'd work till 2, 3 o'clock, and then go home. Except the last couple days we were there. Well, a couple days we went back again in the evenings. Even Jason and I went when Alan wasn't there, because it was just tremendous the amount of stuff that was there. You should come here, Jason, and tell him about getting the guns. Well, then I'll tell him. Jerald had this huge gun collection. And one of Ryan Van Hook, one of Dwayne Van Hook's boys, got a little bit involved, was helping there too. So Jason and Ryan, fairly close, same age kids, they were having fun too. But anyway, the guns had been removed from the premises because Trina was worried about guns being stolen. Some of them were taken to Mitchell to a gun shop to have them appraised and this and that. Anyway, the morning of the sale, Jason and Ryan went to go get the guns. They took a Suburban down there. And I'm not sure just the Suburban, or was there another vehicle too?
The trunk of a car.
Okay, and a car trunk. And went to Stickney. Had no idea where they were going, but went to Stickney in Marge Overweg's house, which was Uncle Garrett's house, where Garrett and Aunt Agnes lived. Went downstairs, Jason said, and that basement floor was lined with guns from one end to the other. You couldn't walk to the other end until you moved the guns from in front of the door. It was just full of guns.
Excuse me, Dwayne, is that besides the ones that were in Mitchell up the,
No, they had brought them back to Mitch, or to Marge's house.
From the,
That's where they had all collected of them.
How many guns were involved?
Who was at the sale? Anybody remember?
what was it, 157 guns?
It was something like that. It was a huge one.
They found guns in the wall the morning or the night before too, when furniture was removed, right?
Day before, up, you had the house downstairs, upstairs, then an attic. In the attic were a couple cream separators. I think you were up there, weren't you, Jason? A couple cream separators. In the bowl of the cream separators, they found a couple pistols.
That's that desk, the record player. Under that desk there were a bunch. That desk in the gun room. Under that desk. There's a bunch over there.
There were guns stashed. It was a desk or an old stereo.
Cereal.
It was one of these old upright stereos with the speakers on the bottom. Took the stereo away from the wall, and there were guns behind the stereo, behind the speakers, inside the stereo. After the sale, when Trina was moving to town, they found a couple more guns. I guess everybody knows kind of how Trina was, pretty protective. You didn't want to be real nosy. She still had her personal stuff in the house. When they were moving her out yet, they found one or two guns behind the drapes, behind the windows. Yeah, so they still found a couple more guns. The rumor had it that, Jerald was scared. He was prepared for attack.
How much ammunition did he have? He had a lot of ammunition too.
Oh, piles of ammunition, and some of the ammunition was sold to friends. I know Dean Plooster ended up with some of it,
We had a box delivered to our house, and it was sitting in front of the door when I came home from work one day, and I thought, it said it's heavy, but it wasn't ours. It was Jerald's ammunition.
But what was really interesting, I used to do some custom bailing, and I bailed for Jerald a few times. And you always thought they didn't get out, probably didn't know what went on, didn't want to associate with anybody. But if you were going to bail by Jerald, that had to be the last job of the day, because you were not going to get out of there. And he knew everything about everything. He read radio, I guess, I don't know, but he was smart. He knew a lot of stuff. But anyway, we did get involved in the sale, and it was a tremendous amount of work. I'd do it again tomorrow if I could. It was fun. We got to know their family. Florence Lafers was there, and not Lafers, Everson was there. They were all there. I would give you just a little. You hear about their side of the family, how you can't trust anybody. This is kind of personal stuff. But anyway, when we were working on the sale, and it was Jason, me, and Alan, and Marge, and there were probably 4 cars in the yard. And the cars on the yard, except for ours, were locked. They locked the cars, and we were the only, they just don't trust anybody, I guess. We never lock our house. They lock their cars. So anyway, like I said, it was an honor to get to do it, I guess. We looked at it as a mission project. Some people travel hundreds of miles. We did it 2 miles from home.
take just a few minutes and focusing on cousins. If you would like to come on up and tell us about something in some event the past 3 years, some significant happening in your life that you'd like to share with the rest of the family. If anybody has anything. Come on, somebody must have something. Lois does. I know what it is.
I think I have the newest grandson that Heather delivered, our daughter Heather delivered her third boy Wednesday. She's not here. They're not here with us today. They were planning on coming until she found out she was pregnant, and we have a third grandson, 8 pounds 5 ounces, born on Wednesday.
And his name?
And his name is Andrew Ryan. And Peter, our youngest son, was married in September. It'll be 2 years. And he's just changing jobs, and they were not able to come. They live in Jackson, Wyoming, and thought they were going to come, but he is just in the process of changing jobs, so they were not able to come.
Who else would like to come on up and share something? Oh. Do we have anybody else that will? Yeah.
Bring the wireless.
Okay.
We've adjusted the system.
That may be it then.
All right, it still works.
I had an interesting experience with Grandpa. Back when I came to see Joyce and the family after we were married in the service, we stopped by, met Grandpa, and he wanted to know what I was doing, and I said I build houses. Well, there we got into about a two afternoon spiel about how they used to build houses. And it was quite interesting because he told about the way that they would always select a tree for one of the corner posts of the house, and they would square off 2 sides of it and make that a corner post. Then he told about building barns, how they would start out with a foundation out of a big rock, and how they would plaster that rock together with lye cement, which they put in a hole and stirred with a horse or a oxen, and they would stir this, and it would get hot, and they put straw over the top of it and leave it set for 2-3 days, and then if they took a small amount of that concrete and threw it up against the rock, and it dried there, and they couldn't get it off, then they knew they had good concrete. But that's how they put the basement or the foundations of the rock of the rock together for the barns. And the barns were all hand cut in the great big forests in South Dakota, which they couldn't find. They had to go a long ways to get wood. They would cut siding by hand with a person below on a pit and another one up above, and a two-man saw, and that's the way they sawed it. And the funny part, I said, how did you saw lap siding too? Oh yeah, sometimes. Depends how rich the farmer was and how much time it required him to dig. But, of course, the insides of the houses were all flat and plaster and made to look pretty, and then wallpapered and painted and Lord knows how many times.
Okay, thank you. Come on up, Harriet.
I know we're off track here, but oh well. I can't remember anything from the last 3 years, of course, at my age, but I do remember something that happened like 60 years ago. That was one of my most wonderful memories of the whole place. Now, see, if you lived close to Grandpa and Grandma, you couldn't have had this memory. You had to be one of those from out of state, because I loved sleeping upstairs. And the most precious thing was waking up in the morning to the smell of bacon and eggs. You remember the bacon and egg smell? Then coming downstairs to this wonderful breakfast. But what always captured my attention was Grandpa, because he always sat in that one chair by the window, and he would always pour his coffee into his saucer. And he was so shaky, and it was like a great interest to me to see if he could make it to his mouth without spilling any of the coffee. That's it.
Was that wad of gum there too?
No, I don't remember the water gun. See, now you guys was far away, we never got downstairs.
No,
You guys know.
we don't have
Oh, we
one.
know where the hell it was, don't you? Don't you know where Grandpa's gun was?
But if you come to Rapid City, there is a stove that reminds me of Grandpa and Grandma's stove, where Grandpa sat with his feet in the oven. If you go to the Horse Creek Inn on Route 385, there's a stove. The cob box is on the other side, but the stove is there.
Well, about that wad of gum, I don't know what it was, but quite often on Sunday evenings, we folks and Mary and I and Irene, were you with it too? You weren't with it. Oh. Well, anyhow, it was Uncle Junior and Grandpa living there, and there wasn't much for Mary and I to do. But on his windowsill, there was always a wad of chewed gum. No, none of their cousins remember that? Mary, you remember? Okay. I didn't chew it, no. No, we never messed with it.
Because Dad must have been the one that gave us the strict instructions about not touching that gum. Your parents must have all said it was okay or something. Oh, we did not touch Grandma's gum.
Oh, no, you didn't touch it. But on the more serious side, there's something that happened to me on April 17, 2006, and that was I got to have a helicopter ride from Armour to Sioux Falls. It's not your cheapest mode of transportation by any means. It's to the tune of about $200 a minute. Well, I got to Sioux Falls and I had a stent put in. Second time this has happened, I'd had one in 1995 as well. I had two put in at that time. Both times, haven't talked about it before to other people, but both times, and like I said, this is on the serious side, I want each and every one of us, and I'm sure we do that, take one day at a time. I had no indications that I had health problems that morning, and I ended up in the hospital that afternoon. Thankfully, I was spared medical procedures, and but we get involved a lot of times with activities or business, and everything that we have, and I know there's other people with medical problems and medical conditions and everything like that. We all have our own struggles, but remember, just take one day at a time, because we don't know about tonight, tomorrow morning, whatever it might be.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share with the family?
I'll second that one hard. You kind of take a day at a time, and with mine it was quite an experience because they called. I guess the day I went in the hospital, they called the family around, and David was somewhat surprised because he had just been there for his annual physical, and he with some pride said when they asked about heart condition, and anybody in the family with a heart condition, he just had pride and said no. And then he gets a call and
I feel lucky. When Tim Russer got close to me, each one of those, and now Harlan brings it back to me again. We're pretty lucky to be here. I was alone at home and mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden was exhausted, and I just couldn't go anymore. And I decided I was going to limit physically, and so I stopped and was trimming the yard for a while, and I was still just out of gas. And so I but reminds me of doing this at my class reunion there. And somebody said, nobody told us there'd be a goddamn preacher talking. But it hit me pretty hard, and I was in the house, and I decided I still wasn't recovering when I was trimming the lawn, so I went in the house and laid down, and I thought, okay, it's just a terrible hot day, I'll lay down. And I still wasn't coming to, and then I felt my left hand tingle, and I thought, oh, that's not a good sign. I think I've read something about that. And then my right hand tingled, and I thought, oh, that's a good sign. That was both sides, so now I know it's nothing to do with heart. It was just vibration of the lawnmower. And then I started to feel a bit nauseated. And I was going to get up and go to the bathroom because that's where you go when you got to do that. And I knew I wasn't going to make the bathroom standing up without doing that before I got there. So I crawled there, but by the time I got there, I knew that if I lifted my head up as high as without doing it on the floor, I knew I would pass out. And so I laid down again. And then, because I was a Wolbrink, I was going to be very clean, and I wasn't going to do it on the floor no matter what. I reached around the corner a little ways outside of this bathroom where there was a refrigerator that I knew that Candy kept some large bowls. I got up to the top of the refrigerator, and I got one of the bowls down and came crashing down to the floor again. Literally. The bowl didn't break, but I almost did. And then I was so exhausted, I couldn't get back to where I had left the cell phone to call for help, but I knew I needed help at that point. So I was stuck there about 10 feet from the cell phone, and I knew that was the end if I didn't get over there. And finally got over to the cell phone. And you know how cell phone numbers are, that ordinarily you have 9 and 1 on the lower right corner, and you have a 1 up in the upper right corner, but in the cell phone that's not a 1, it's a call. So I hit 9 call.
And that's when I discovered I was calling the wrong person. And I said, God help me. I was that close to God. And I got the 911, and an angel answered. And the person at the other end was so extremely well trained that I just said I'm having a heart attack, and she said, just don't talk anymore, but let me hear you breathe. And she brought me through, and I was so weak by the time I got to that second call, I couldn't even lift my head off the carpet. And I didn't realize how serious I was until actually it was a little bit raining outside. And the ambulance got to the hospital, and I've been to hospitals enough, I know what they do when they get there. The ambulance always has to back in a ways. But they stopped, and I felt I was on live television or something because they dramatized too much to me. Because it was still raining, and they stopped the ambulance, and they dropped the doors open, and they ran me out through the rain in the emergency room. And I thought, oh, I guess I really am in trouble. And then, I'm sorry about making this long, but I hope that we emphasize what was said before we take every day is special. I got to the emergency room, and I had an argument with one of the doctors one of the cardiologists at that hospital, and I was scared stiff. And there was this little doctor standing there who was about an inch shorter than Candy. And she says, we're gonna take you up to the operating room and we're gonna operate on you. And I said, no, you're not. And she says, what do you mean you're not? We're not. And she turned to Candy, who happened to come in about that quick, and she said, I'm not gonna let him do this. This is a life or death situation. And Candy reaches around her and says, did you hear that? And then she said to me, what are you afraid of? And I said, it's not what I'm afraid of, it's who. And she says, was it so-and-so? No. Was it so-and-so? No. Was it so-and-so? She says, then you don't have to be afraid because those are the only three that are going to be working on you. And then she says, can you remember who it was? And I says, no, I can't remember. But he was Jewish. Now this is from a part Jewish person who's not supposed to be prejudiced against him. But I feel like all of that worked out as a real miracle. That I don't know why I'm here. I think the reason is because God said I wasn't ready yet. I have some more to do. That I guess I feel like I'm borrowed time. And every day counts. It's pretty important. I had, like Harlan, I had no indication of any heart disease at all. In examinations, I had less than 30% blockage in all the arteries. One was about 25, and the others are less than that. But just when we don't have much plaque, sometimes that can be fairly fragile. And with the stress of life, it puts too much stress in the arteries, and a piece of plaque broke loose. And so I was just very fortunate. Or else I was maybe bad enough that God says you're not ready yet. but we're here, and I'm just glad to be here. That was 2 years ago. Now I'm down from 11 pills down to 2. And it was great to be able to get on the motorcycle again. I feel like life has been restored. And I just praise God.
Thank you both, Harlan and Dean, for sharing those stories with us, very moving stories. And it also reminds us we're all getting older, and we are very thankful for our health. We hope and pray we can all come back again in 3 years, but we recognize this. We may not all be back here. So with that, why don't what we'd like to do is get the cousins to line up for the... Oh, you want to sing a song? And then what we're going to do, have the cousins line up, oldest up here, go on down, and we'll take a photo. Okay.
Okay, on the back side of your other, the fun songs, we have a serious song on the back side, which was Grandma's favorite song, "'Tis so Sweet to Trust in Jesus." And I just want to thank you for sharing your stories, because being a breast cancer survivor now for 15 years, we do realize how important each day is. And there isn't a night that I don't put my head in the pillow and thank the Lord for giving me one more day. Because when you come so close and risk, your life is in the balance, as mine was at that point too, you really begin to thank the Lord for each day you have. So I trust that when you go to bed tonight and put your head on that pillow, you will just thank the Lord for giving you one more day. And that leads us how sweet it is to trust in Jesus. Let's stand up as we sing this, and we're going to sing the first verse together, and then I'd like to have all of the women just sing the second verse. Then I'd like to have all the men sing the third verse, and then we'll all sing the fourth verse, okay? And again, I have no piano, so we'll do what we can, all right? 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I proved Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. All the women. Oh, how sweet to trust in Jesus, just to trust His cleansing blood, just in simple faith to plunge me neath the healing, cleansing flood. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I proved Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. All the men. 'Tis sweet to trust in Jesus, just from sin and self to cease, just from Jesus simply taking life and rest and joy and peace. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I proved Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. Everybody. I'm so glad I learned to trust Him, precious Jesus, Savior, friend, and I know that He is with me, will be with me to the end. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him,
wonderful night.
If I could have your attention one more time, if everybody would please sit down. I've heard in 3 years that our family, Junior's family, and Uncle Charles's family is in charge. First of all, you want to do this again in 3 years? Okay. When do you want to do it? Last weekend in July work, or the old traditional time was first weekend in August? Have you got any preference? Is there a good time, or is there a bad time that we want to stay away from, or have you got no opinion or input? I guess that's what I was looking for.
Well, I know after the 1st of August doesn't suit Lois.
Well, that's disregard.
Well, she's employed.
Okay?
But in 3 years, I'll be retired, so the rally doesn't make any difference.
I think we appreciated having it just a little earlier for us. That was kind of nice.
Okay?
But we're open.
Okay? People like the July? In the July, I see head shaking. Okay, we will plan toward that then. Guess I haven't talked with anyone else. Have you got suggestions, something that would like to see done or not be done? Have you got, anybody have a suggestion? Or, yes?
What I would like to see is a photographic family tree so that we could see the faces of the people coming down on the family tree. I think that would be really nice to see.
I can do that if people will send me scanned pictures by email. My program handles that. So we can do that.
Yeah, because I'm William's granddaughter is who I am, so I don't know all the faces as well as some.
There's some of us who would rather not have.
You can just put your name on the picture.
I was thinking of that whole new salad dressing.
Anything else? That's a good idea. Okay, we will try to put something together in 3 years. Hope to see everyone back there, plus maybe a few more. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, before you get up to take pictures, we're going to start taking pictures now. I want to just say personally, thank you so much all for coming. Lots of miles. You know, one thing we talked about, by the way, I want to say that John and Lois came out especially a weekend to help plan this reunion. No, I did the contacting, I'm just saying, but they drove out, and then we emailed it to Jim, okay, what do you want to eat? But they drove out especially a weekend to talk about it and plan things, so I certainly appreciated that, so.